if you know that that's the best thing for you, for the relationship to end. Sometimes this is when people get into trouble because they want to go back into the relationship, not because it's good for them, but because they are apprehensive about being alone. They have this anxiety about being alone, and this is often not about losing the partner. It's not about the absence of that other person in your life. It's the absence of identity, of security, and the predictability. So even in an unhealthy relationship, it's easy or possible, or it often happens, that what we get comfortable with is it's predictable.
This is the Joy Act, where finding joy beyond divorce begins with your understanding that the depth of your heartache shows the depth of your capacity for joy. I'm Dr. Lisa Summerour, and together we'll use accountability, alignment, communication, and trust to transform your journey. It's time to step into the Joy Act.
Hello, Dr. Lisa here. I'm your accredited breakup and divorce coach, and this is the Joy Act. This podcast is for you if you are on the brink of, in the middle of, or you've gotten through your divorce and you are still struggling with just getting back up on your feet, whether it's personally or professionally. And what I want to do in these episodes is move you through that process. So no matter where you are in the process, I want to provide you with some strategies and tools and encouragement, motivation that will help you become the person that you really most want to become at this point in your life. And I call this period of life the Joy Act. So I want you to step into that Joy Act. And ACT stands for accountability, alignment, communication, and trust, because I really believe that proprietary framework I created, I believe it is the foundation to give you the steps that you need so that you can feel empowered to live your life the way you really want to live your life. And that's going to be better for you and everybody else in your life. This episode, and I'm pulling up my notes here because I did an episode a few weeks ago, and it was about the difference between feeling alone and feeling lonely. And if you've ever been there, you know that you can be in a space with a group of people or one person, and maybe you've experienced this with your current or your ex, where you are with this person and you have never felt more lonely in your life. You're not alone, you're not physically by yourself, but you feel disconnected, you don't really feel like you belong, you feel unseen, unheard. And the unheard part could be almost literal, like the person just is really not paying attention to you. And so I wanted to do this episode. It's sort of a companion episode to that because I really wanted to talk about not just the difference between alone and lonely, not just comparing those two things and defining those two things, but I want to talk about how do you possibly get to this place? How do you address it? How do you acknowledge it? Because what I want you not to do is consistently ignore or deny your emotions. Accountability is about you taking ownership of however you're feeling, whatever you're feeling, and feeling okay about doing that. Getting to a place where even when it's uncomfortable, even when there's some apprehension or some anxiety around it, you get to a place where you know, not only do I need to do this for myself, but I want to do this for myself. So I want to talk about this idea of feeling lonely and what it is that you can do about it as you address it. So if you haven't checked out the episode on being alone versus lonely, please look for that episode on my YouTube channel, that podcast episode. And like I said, today it's about not sugarcoating this. It's about really addressing the fear. Now you're going to hear me say fear every now and then, but what I really mean is anxiety. And I take a page out of Myron Golden's book because he's so good at reminding us that fear is when we are in the path of clear or present danger or potential danger. And very rarely is that really the case in our day-to-day lives, but we do have that apprehension, that feeling, that anxiety, that nervousness that we get, and we call it fear. But you know, words are important, and how we define them and how we live into them is important. So I'm going to do everything I can to say anxiety, and I may say both of them just so that you hear the two of them. And I'm going to do my best to remind you that you're probably experiencing anxiety because this isn't anything that should have you fearful. So I planted the seed so you can remember this as well. So if you are in a season of feeling anxious and that feeling of being alone is really heavy for you, I also want to take this time. This episode is actually sponsored by my Masterclass, 4 Essential Steps to Creating Joy After a Difficult Divorce. And it is the foundation of how I teach the ACT framework, A.A.C.T, accountability, alignment, communication, and trust. Go to dr-lisa.life, dr-lisa.life/joy beyond divorce. Joy Beyond Divorce. Don't worry, I'll put the link in the notes below. Go there. You can get information on my masterclass, sign up for the masterclass, and get even more information on my proprietary program, ACT. So let's talk about where this anxiety around being alone comes from. If you are in the middle of a divorce or you're on the brink of one, you may already be experiencing this apprehension about breaking up. And I will say this, very often when a person realizes the relationship is coming to an end and there's nothing they can do about it, and even if you know that that's the best thing for you, for the relationship to end, sometimes this is when people get into trouble because they want to go back into the relationship, not because it's good for them, but because they are apprehensive about being alone. They have this anxiety about being alone. And this is often not about losing the partner. It's not about the absence of that other person in your life. It's the absence of identity, of security, and the predictability. So even in an unhealthy relationship, it's easy or possible, or it often happens, that what we get comfortable with is it's predictable. They said the devil you know is better than the one you don't. That's sort of where phrases like that come from. And it could be rooted in childhood attachments. I'm going to get something. Let me see if I can find this book. Yes, right here. Hold on, I'm coming right back. You know, this is one of my favorite books. You see all the tabs, right? Matter of fact, I still have a bookmark in here, and I've definitely, read the entire thing at least once. I share this book a lot. This is called Attached. Attached. Are you anxious, avoidant, or secure? How the science of adult attachment can help you find and keep love. I love this book because it does talk about the attachment styles, but more than just talk about it, there is an assessment that you can take to identify your attachment style. And what's really great is that there is another assessment that you can take for your significant or your significant ex. Let me put it that way. And you may be thinking, well, why do I want to find out what their attachment style was? Well, let me tell you. Because it allows you to actually look at your past for the purposes of learning from it instead of wallowing in it. You can actually take this assessment for yourself and on behalf of your ex, and it may give you some ahas that you might not otherwise have been able to get. And that information can help you understand better why you may have responded to certain things that happened the way that you did. Is okay with you? Are you comfortable or happy with that? Or are there things that you want to work on so that you can change that? But it really allows you to use this as a tool, a learning tool for yourself to move forward differently, or to move forward just with more knowledge, with more information about how you were showing up. One of the things could be your childhood attachment could be where some of this anxiety is coming from. It could also be social pressure. It's sort of like you're single or you're single again. Well, what's wrong with you? And you start thinking, yeah, what is wrong with me? And the funny thing about how our minds work is if you ask a question like that, your brain doesn't try to counter it. Your brain tries to answer it. So if you ask yourself, what is wrong with me? Your brain is going to come up with 99 reasons, 99 things that are wrong with you because it wants to answer your question for you. It wants to give you what you ask for. And so we really need to get better at asking the right questions and having much healthier and more proactive and more encouraging conversations with ourselves so that we don't continue to take ourselves down this negative pathway. The social pressure, that script of what's wrong with me, could be another reason you're having some anxiety. Just think about it. If you're thinking something is wrong with you, and that's why your relationship is ending, then you probably aren't seeing yourself being able to get into another relationship that's going to be any different, because you have not given yourself room for that to live. Third reason, past relational trauma or abandonment. So if you've had a history of being in devastating or traumatic or relationships where you have felt abandoned, whether it's from a family member or an intimate relationship, this could be something that's now, it's now almost like, oh no, I know what's going to happen. This is what always happens. It's going to happen to me again. You start building up this anxiety, and now you may be trying to hold on to this relationship for dear life, even though it may not be good for you. But you're dealing with the fear, the anxiety of those past relationships. And a fourth one could just be your survival brain could be kicking in. If that relationship represented stability, and at one time it represented what you thought love was or what you thought you needed in a relationship, all of those things, it becomes an emotional safety net for you. And you may not want to let it go, right? So know this, the fear is common. And I want you to tell yourself, I need to normalize this. I need to not make this anxiety, fear, anxiety, and I'm not using them synonymously. Remember, they're different. One of them is clear and present danger, fear, and the other one is the anxiety that you are causing in yourself because you are predicting a negative outcome. That's really what's happening when we get anxious. We're telling ourselves something bad is going to happen. Something that I'm not going to be able to deal with is going to happen. Something I don't want to have happen is going to happen. And we start responding mentally, emotionally, physically even, as if it's really going to happen, even though we don't have a crystal ball. We cannot predict the future. You have just as much right. Dr. Dwyer used to say, we have just as much right to predict something positive happening as we do predicting something negative is going to happen. But we tend to lean toward predicting the negative, and that causes the anxiety. Normalize what you're feeling right now. And by that, I mean, it's common. You're not the only person who has gone through what you've gone through or something similar and is having this anxiety about being alone, okay? The other thing you can also normalize is your ability to move through it, because you're not going to be the first person to understand this anxiety is not uncommon, and it's also not uncommon for people to move through this, and that's what you're going to be able to do. So let's talk about how you can begin to address this. First thing, acknowledge it and accept that it's happening. That's about as real as we can keep it. Acknowledge it and accept that it's happening. Don't gaslight yourself. Do not tell yourself, oh, I'm just imagining this, or it's you are experiencing what you're experiencing, and the sooner you are able to look in the mirror and tell yourself, nope, I am having an anxiety attack about being alone. You may use the word fear. You may say, I'm afraid of being by myself. I'm afraid of being alone. I want you to get in a mirror, and I want you to look yourself in the eyes in that mirror, and I want you to say, I am anxious about being alone. And I want you to follow it up by naming the need that's underneath that anxiety. Like, you're anxious probably because you think something that you need will not be there. What is that thing that you think you need that will not be there that's causing the anxiety? And it could be a feeling of safety. Even if the relationship wasn't healthy, something about it may have had you feeling safer just because you weren't alone, and you have equated being by yourself with not being safe. And so if you can say, I'm having anxiety about being alone because I don't feel like I'm going to be safe, or I don't feel like I'm going to feel like I belong in spaces or places, or I feel like I'm not going to have a purpose anymore. Maybe you were an anchor. Maybe you were that giver in your relationship, and maybe you connected your identity to all of the things that you did for the people in your life in that relationship. And now that that's gone, you have started telling yourself, I don't know what my purpose is going to be. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself, right? What will be important about me when this relationship is no longer in existence? So You are telling yourself that you're anxious, you're acknowledging that you're anxious, and you're naming the need that's underneath that anxiety. What's fueling that anxiety that you have? And so here's using my ACT framework to help you move through that. You want to be accountable. You want to take accountability. And by doing that, take note, pay attention to whatever it is that you've been doing to avoid the feelings that you're now acknowledging that they exist. Some of the things that you may have been doing, you may have been overbooking yourself to keep yourself busy. You may have started dating too soon, dating too many people, dating the wrong people just because they're available. Any of those things could be a sign that you were doing things to avoid dealing with these feelings or even feeling them. And you could have been keeping yourself numb emotionally, just almost pretending that like you killed the nerves connected to those feelings. So you just aren't feeling anything. So you want to ask yourself, why have I been afraid, or what anxiety was building up when I thought about dealing with those emotions, right? This is the accountability part. I know I'm anxious. I'm anxious because I feel like I'm not going to have the security that I feel like I need in my life. And I've been avoiding dealing with these feelings because of what? I don't feel like I'm equipped to deal with them. I didn't want to deal with the answers or things that might come up. So trust yourself to be able to deal with whatever comes up, because this is just the beginning where you acknowledge it. You accept that that's what you're feeling. You name this thing. And this is the beginning of you taking accountability. So the next thing I want you to consider, I want you to ask yourself is, what kind of relationship do you want with yourself? What kind of relationship do I want with myself? Because this is going to help you keep your actions in alignment with what your soul really is craving, what you really need for yourself, what you desire or want for yourself. When you say to yourself, what is the relationship that I want to have with me? And you'll notice that it's about the relationship with you. I'm not talking about your relationship with anybody else, because the most important relationship that you're going to have with another human being is the one that you have with you. And it becomes the model of behavior of how you treat and what you accept from other people, because you're going to be modeling that behavior. So that alignment is about, what's the relationship I want to have with myself? And then the communication. You want to replace this anxiety-ridden monologue. What's wrong with me? Why can't I find anybody? How come my relationships don't work out? What did I do wrong? All of those negative things with more affirming language. Yes. Did your relationship just end? Absolutely. Should you hold yourself accountable to aspects of that relationship that were your responsibility, or that you initiated, or where you created problems? Absolutely. Do all of those things. Now you're looking at trying to move through a particular area in your life where you're not feeling good about being by yourself. And so this is something you really want to dive into and be specific and be intentional about what you do right now. So this is not the time for you to beat yourself up or to remind yourself of all the things that you did wrong, because you're already feeling alone. You're already feeling bad about something. And so you want to replace this negative internal monologue with something more affirming. And it could be something like, I am working to grow myself. I'm working to grow my wholeness. And I'm not waiting for somebody else to complete me. I am whole all by myself. I am everything that I need right now in my life. And whatever I don't have, I know that I will be able to get what I need when I need it from the source that it should come from. And if you're a person of faith, it may be your faith, whatever that is. But believe that you have either everything that you need in you right now, which you do, everything that you need right now, you have right now. You need to tap into it. You need to acknowledge that that exists the same way we're acknowledging that this anxiety exists. So you need to rebuild trust by noticing the moments when you are alone and you realize you're okay. You can build this trust by checking in with yourself from time to time. Just catch yourself off guard. Just in the middle of doing something, just stop and go, how is everything right now? Take a little assessment. And when you realize I am by myself, I am alone, and I'm good. Like I am really good right now. And it may make you laugh, you may cry, But what that is in that one moment is proof that you're capable of being okay alone. It is proof that you're capable of being okay alone. You can lean into your spirituality. You can lean into your creativity. They help anchor us in being able to trust ourselves better. Because the ability to lean into your spirituality is something, it could be meditation, it could be your religious practices, whatever you do for your spiritual wholeness or wellness. That is something that can anchor you and calm you and help you just stay grounded. Your creativity can do the same thing, but it's a little different because when we're operating in our creativity, there's a different kind of energy there. And I think there's a healing energy, it could be calming, but I also believe it's healing and it's rejuvenating and it's empowering because it reminds us that it's not just about us. Because whenever you're creating, even though you may be feeling blessed because of what you're creating, typically we create things that other people benefit from as well, even if it's just sharing it with someone else, right? And so I think it helps, it could be that first step of stepping outside of yourself. But the most important thing in this moment is taking that moment and saying, I'm alone right now and I'm good. I am so good right now with being alone. So if this is resonating with you, I want to remind you again, please take a moment and go learn more about my masterclass, 4 Essential Steps to Creating Joy After a Difficult Divorce. If you're looking at this and you're going, but I haven't been divorced, it was a breakup, this is also for you. Especially if you are what I call an accomplished woman, you have had some successes in your life, and this has just taken you aback. It has set you back in a way that you probably didn't anticipate, or this isn't the first time, and you're realizing every time I go through this, I really feel like my relationships are throwing me off kilter, and they do set me back a little bit. They cause me to have to play a little catch up in my life. And you may be one of these folks who you are very accomplished in certain areas of your life, and this is the one area that you feel like you just don't have it together, but you realize that it is impacting other areas of your life, and you want to figure out what is something that I can do that becomes a sustainable way of me being able to move through these difficult periods of my life. And I believe the proprietary framework that I've created, A.A.C.T, through the masterclass to inform and introduce you to that, I believe that's the first step. I think will be able to help you move forward. So just to wrap this up, takeaways: that fear of being alone, or the anxiety that you have created about you being alone, it does not mean that you're broken. It is definitely not a sign that you're broken. It's a signal. It's a signal for you. And you can look at it and go, you know what, with the right tools, I can respond, rebuild, and reimagine what's next for me. Think about this as most of our emotional states are. They're a little alarm to tell us there's something that you should pay attention to. And once you pay attention to it, if you're willing to acknowledge that it's there, you position yourself to be able to fix it because you are willing to face it. So I just want you to think about this. If this has helped you in any way, please put comments down below and subscribe to this channel. If you have gotten anything out of this episode, I want you to do 2 things. Share it with somebody that you think could benefit from hearing it. You know somebody who's been divorced, going through a divorce, been talking to you about a divorce, or they just had a significant breakup. Share this with them. And then for you, subscribe to my channel. Dr. Lisa here. Go out, have a wonderful rest of your day. And while you're out there, act in joy.